All right, welcome everybody to my EO presentation on how entrepreneurs are wasting cash on Google Ads. This is a topic that's very dear to me. I've been working on it for 22 years of my life since Google Ads got started. And yes, it has been around for 22 years. So this recording, the notes, and a Google Ads audit template will be sent out at the end of the presentation. So you don't need to worry too much about taking notes. It'll all be recorded here. So here's the agenda, some quick housekeeping, some Google stats, review the methodology on how we got all of this data. And we're going to dive into the top 10 mistakes we're seeing entrepreneurs are making. And then we'll move to the live Q&A in the final 10 minutes. So first of all, thank you. I understand how precious and valuable all of your times are, especially those of you running big companies. My approach here is just going to be hard and fast, dropping lots of value, as much value as possible. I understand your time is precious to you, and I'm going to just load it up with knowledge bombs as much as I can. It's going to be coming hard and fast. That's just my personality, but don't worry. The recording you can catch anything that you missed. So why are we doing this? I mean, this is my fourth presentation of this type. It started a few years back. The most recent one I did on helping EOers recruit internationally and how to work in remote distributed environments, just sort of giving away everything that I knew, just thought leadership and sharing knowledge is just helping people within EO has just resulted in so much peripheral benefit, just new relationships, referrals, and it feels good. So yeah, my goal here is to save EOers here as much as possible. I think I could save you guys over $1 million on a 45-minute phone call. We'll see if that materializes. If I do save you a bunch of cash, feel free to send me a little message at the end letting me know how much that was, just for my own analytical curiosity. Disclaimer, we do have a lot of people that have invited guests from within their company. They'll say like, well, I'm EO member, I run the company, but my marketing team runs Google Ads. Can I bring them in? So just a warning that this event is not EO confidential. There's a lot of non-EOers in the room today because a lot of you running companies don't have time to run the Google Ads. So goals for today, save you guys over $1 million. Really quick about me, I've been a serial.com entrepreneur since early 2000, and all of my businesses have been based around Google Ads and organic search. I'm based here in Vancouver, BC. I run a small marketing agency called MyZone Marketing. And I'm a passionate entrepreneur, and I've been an EO member for about 5 or 6 years now. So questions, if you have any questions, go to myzone.com/Slido. The event code is MyEO. Post your questions there at the end. Whoever has the most popular question will be winning a prize. So I thought I'd start off with some quick, easy stats just to break the ice here. I was Googling around for about 2 hours last night, trying to find the most exciting stats I could find on Google Ads. Here's a few quick ones. Over 80% of global businesses now are using Google Ads. They have 86.6% of market share. And this one I thought was fascinating. Now there's over 2 times more clicks from paid than organic on the keywords that matter. And those are the ones with high commercial intent. So I remember this stat from years ago. It was like 10, 20, 22, 24. That percentage keeps going higher, right in line with Google's revenue and their share price. So if you look at that chart on the right-hand side, you'll see how fast Google is growing. Now we know with the pandemic, everything tech-related took a leapfrog 10 years forward. So you see that big spike in 2021. Google is still picking up speed. There's over 2 million websites on the display network, so you can reach far and wide. And this was a really interesting one for me. Retail search is now spending 76% of their money on Google Shopping. And this one, most of you know, the majority of clicks are coming from mobile, or up to 62%. I think we're in the low 90s for fixed, just for reference. And then here, let's take a quick look at the survey results. So you can see how other EOers live polls. Okay, so we have 134 survey results. You can still enter them in right now while we're reviewing them. So let's see. How long have you been running? So a lot of newbies in there, 70% haven't even run Google Ads yet. Wow, fascinating. So much money to be made there. Some senior ones in there. I'm not alone. 13 of you have been running them as long as me. How much people are typically spending per year on Google Ads? That the majority is 50 grand or less. I got 3 whales out there. Interesting. Who manages your Google Ads? Is it in-house or external or a combination? So most of you are running them in-house. That's pretty common. 26% using an agency, 17% is a combination of in-house and agency. What are the campaign objectives? Oh, wow. 79% lead generation, 33% e-com, and down from there. Let's see how many of you are using landing page software. 35%. That's higher than I was expecting. 42% no, 22% not sure. Which campaign types is EO currently using? We got 93% on search, 46% on display, 27% on video, only 19% on shopping, but I guess that goes along with lead generation. Shopping is killing it these days for e-com. And let's see if we're spending money other than Google and Facebook. We got, as expected, 84% on Facebook. What's the next big one? 43% on LinkedIn, 26% on Bing. Up and coming fast. Pay attention to TikTok. These guys are growing like wildfire. And then you can see the rest. These are the top 10 alternative platforms out there. And in terms of budgets, 12% plan on spending less, probably preparing for the potential recession headed our way, but it's already here. 45% keeping budgets similar, 43% increasing. And what percentage of your media buying budget goes to Google? So there's a lot of people here that haven't even started yet. Pretty evenly distributed. We come in around 60%. There you go. So we'll share this data with you guys after presentation. Okay, so methodology. How do we collect the data we're about to go through, these top 10? So we've been doing audits for over 20 years. We have hundreds of line items that we review in each audit. Now, we've come up with a weighting system based on the importance and relevancy, and we looked at the top 10 issues that just keep popping up that are affecting most people. So this is just a quick example of the Google Ads audit template that we use that we'll be sharing with you. So when we bring on a new client, we'll go through, a section about tags and conversion tracking or account structure, etc. We get into negative keywords, and these are all the different things we look for. There's weighted averages. And we went back through all of these audits, and don't worry, we'll share this template with you. And this is what we found. So these were the 10 most common out of the 143 things that we look at. These are the ones that were most impactful and most common. So number one, conversion tracking issues, and so on. We'll get through this. I've kept the number 10. This is a big one. 98% of the clients that we've audited are not doing this properly, and it has the biggest impact. So I'm really excited to share that one with you. But let's get started. So number one, conversion tracking. Now, this sounds basic, and you really can't do anything on Google until you set it up properly. But we're shocked that 71% of audits we completed, there was something wrong with their conversion tracking. Now, some of you, it just wasn't set up at all. Maybe you're just driving traffic and you're maximizing clicks. We do see that a fair amount. But quite often, it's just that it's incorrectly set up. We've seen many instances where people have add to carts tracked as a conversion, or they're double importing data from Google Analytics plus Google Ads, and just mistakes with the setup, or pixels not firing properly, duplicate pixels, things like that. We also see a lot of situations where people are just not tracking value of conversions that are coming in. They're treating all the conversions the same. So a conversion could be a phone call, a lead, an e-commerce conversion, but they should be adjusted based on value. And so you get a wrong picture if you're treating all of them the same. Or for those e-commerce sites where they're not measuring value, they can't calculate the return on ad spend. And here I wanted to show you a quick case study with a fellow EO Vancouver member, Saul Good. They provide corporate gift baskets all across Canada. And so when we are analyzing their site, they were originally, I'll just click through to their site here. They were originally only tracking conversions from e-commerce. Somebody had to add to cart, check out, and that was working. And this is a common conversion tracking mistake. People forget about all of the leakage. So think of your website as a bucket, and you want to plug all those holes to truly understand the value that's coming through from paid. So first of all, we've got people that are calling their 1-800 number and converting with the sales team. They have under corporate gift baskets, there's contact forms at the bottom of the site where people can book a call with a representative. So the problem with that is originally when they were estimating the value of Google Ads, they were missing out on a lot of different values. So the problem there is it's not about saving cash for them. It's just not understanding the true value. And with that, they're making bad decisions about things like what is my target CPA or what is my actual return on ad spend. So when you look at somebody like Solgood, only measuring e-com, the way that we close the funnel for them, this was a manual approach. You can automate this with CRMs, but really we just get a report every quarter from their sales team. They're exporting data from their CRM and they're telling us the value. We look at the average purchase value that comes through phone calls, the average conversion rate, and then we can figure out for every phone call, it's estimated to be $123 in value. And then we can program it so every time we get a phone conversion or a lead conversion, a specific value is brought in the same way as the e-commerce values are there. So that closed off the conversion tracking for them, and suddenly they were able to much better understand value. But the same way that a lot of websites may be losing value from conversions that they're not tracking, there's another test. This one I don't know the correct terminology for this. This is something that a term we made up years ago, and I haven't seen anyone else do it. We call it the halo effect test. And those of you that have cranked up your Google Ads budgets or had your credit card expire and watch what happens to traffic on your website, you'll realize that as much as you seal off your conversions, the tracking is never completely accurate. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes on, the good stuff. So for example, Ultimate Tools, another Vancouver EO client here, they recently had a credit card go down, and we saw a big drop in organic and direct traffic. So the way that you can test this halo effect, like we did with Ultimate Tools, and I think we're actually in the process of doing that with Solgood as well, is you just go aggressive for a few weeks. Try to do it at a period of time where your sales or leads are fairly static. Don't do it like if you're going through a transition from summer to fall and your conversion rate jumps up in September, that's not a good time. Look for a historical period of time in your Google Analytics where your data is fairly consistent, and then go hard for 2 weeks with an aggressive budget, turn your budget completely off for 2 weeks, then turn it back on and track the impact that your paid is having on your organic, your direct, your social. You might be shocked what you found. So with Ultimate Tools, they were finding over 30% of their organic traffic was being influenced from paid. And this isn't always the case. We're just about wrapping up that test with Solgood, and it seems like there's a very minimal impact on organic and direct from paid. So make sure you understand that. And when you do, you now have the full picture of what a conversion is actually worth to you. Okay. The next one here. So incorrect bidding strategy. Found 69% of our audits, there was some mistake somewhere in there. So we see a very common trend is people will be stuck in manual bidding without any bid adjustments, or they might be using maximized clicks and they're trying to track conversions through leads. We see people that are running smart campaigns with really small budgets, and there's not enough data for the algorithm to optimize against. We see people that are using target CPA across a product line where there's different values. When you have different values from the leads, you should be using return on ad spend. It's much more accurate. Are people that just, I would say the vast majority of people are just stuck in manual maximize clicks, maximize conversions, and they're not moving on to the more advanced smart bidding strategies. So a real quick recommendation that we have for this structure works for most people is you start with maximize clicks, and you can do manual bid adjustments in that stage. And this is just about collecting data so that we can move into maximize. As most of you are focused on lead generation. Once you've got enough data, Google will recommend you can now switch to maximize conversions. Once you have a baseline established, you can now establish your target CPA. And if, like Solgood, you've got multiple different conversion types with different values, the holy grail for you is moving to a target ROAS. Or you can also, alternatively, you can attribute different CPA targets based on different conversion types and different campaigns. So the path starts from like manual, maximize clicks, and to maximize conversions. Typically, the holy grail is to get to target ROAS. If you're sitting with maximize clicks or manual right now, you're missing out on 95% of account automation opportunities and significant wins from the smart bidding machine learning. This one is super common. Mistakes with branded keywords. So first of all, what are branded keywords? These are the keywords that when someone searches for them, you know they already know about you. They're looking for. So for me, that might be MyZone marketing or MyZone media. For Sol Good or Ultimate Tools, it would be, well, Sol Good gift baskets. Sol Good on its own, just thanks to the TV show, wouldn't work, but it has to be a specific enough term that when someone types that in, you know that they're looking for you. Now, people often ask, why should you be bidding on branded terms? If you set it up properly, they're super cheap. In competitive industries, it's definitely required, just that you're preventing your competitors from bidding against you. And people think, well, if someone's going to type in Sol Good gift baskets, they're already looking for me. Why should I be bidding? Well, if a competitor in Vancouver is bidding on the keyword gift baskets, they could be stealing your own branded traffic. So it's very important to bid. And a lot of clients forget to bid on their own brands. The big mistake we see also is that people do not separate their branded search terms from their non-branded. Super important, because branded search terms can convert somewhere in the 20 to 50% range, whereas the non-branded, you're coming in sort of like that 1 to 5% conversion rate. And if you have, like if you go through your search term logs for your non-branded campaigns, you'd be shocked. If you haven't created this separation, and I'll show you how to do it here in a second, you might think some of your non-branded campaigns are performing way better than you thought. Like say you're bidding on gift baskets Vancouver, like, oh, wow, we got a 14% conversion rate. You go through the search term logs and you see that there's all sorts of branded references in there. It's misleading you into thinking that you're doing better than you actually are. So what you need to do, and I put a note here, don't forget the typos. You'd be shocked how like you could target, because we need to block the branded terms from the non-branded campaigns, but people have all sorts of ways of spelling your brand. So don't forget those typos. And then what you want to do is you want to set up a list of all your branded search terms, apply them as a negative to all of your non-branded campaigns, and that ensures that you see accurately what's going on. That campaign you thought was 14% is actually 3%, and suddenly your branded campaign is getting a whole bunch more conversions. And this will allow you to make proper budgeting decisions. So very, very important. A recent thing we discovered, Performance Max is fairly new in the last year or so. And we've been testing this out with a bunch of clients and thinking it was absolutely crushing it. Be careful. Performance Max will by default include your branded search terms and totally mislead you. We were working for the Abbotsford Air Show here in Vancouver, and we're testing out Performance Max. We're so excited on the performance, and we started to dig in. We're like, oh, it was just cannibalizing from the branded campaign. So I think there's a manual way you can reach out to Google and have them manually block certain keywords within Performance Max, but that is a fairly new area for me. Another area within branded, I see a lot of wastage, is you can test out a lower maximum cost per click within the branded campaigns. Or first of all, we normally recommend that we keep branded on either a manual or a maximize clicks strategy to target for 95 to 100% search impression share. These campaigns, like your branded campaigns, are so important that you don't want to leave it up to, like if you put it in with your regular campaigns, you might find your 30, 40, 50, 60% search impression share. Just force them through. I usually put, like for my own stuff, I'll do like a $10 max cost per click. I'll go for 100% search impression share. But I did a little test with it. We've done a few tests with clients where we keep a close eye on the search impression share, which shows the frequency that your ads are showing up for your branded search term. And again, it should be in the high 90s. And then we started to lower the maximum cost per click under the manual bidding strategy. And I'll use, say, Abbotsford Air Show as an example. They were paying like 50 cents or so for a branded click, and it was coming in high volume. It was chewing up like 10, 20% of their budget. And so we just did a test. We just kept lowering and lowering and lowering. You want to find the sweet spot where your search impression share starts to drop below the 90%. And you'll be amazed just because your quality score, your click-through rates for your branded terms are so high that you can drive that cost per click down very, very low with quite often minimal impact on your search impression share. So we ended up getting those clicks down below 10 cents a click without much impact on search impression share. So make sure you've done that test. Watch for branded negatives. So for those of you like Solgood or even MyZone, there's a MyZone health band that they use in training studios, has nothing to do with MyZone media. So be careful that your branded campaigns you're considering like Solgood, the movie. So your branded are you also need to look at branded negatives. Okay, next one, competitive keyword issues. 78% are not targeting competitors or they're not doing it properly. So common mistakes, first of all, they're not even bidding on competitors. Secondly, is we often see that the competitive campaigns are not separated into their own ad groups. Not all competitors are the same. So the example I want to give there was a robot pizza delivery company down in California called Zoom. They raised $1 billion in financing. This was the hype of craziness maybe 4 years ago. And so one of the campaigns we were running for them is we were targeting every single pizza shop in large parts of California. And you can imagine that list, hundreds, if not thousands of pizza shops. And because we'd separated each and every competitor into its own ad group, we could very quickly see which competitors were converting properly and which ones were not. The challenge was if we grouped all those competitive keywords into one ad group, first of all, you can't customize the ad creative, which you recommend, which will get you a higher click-through rate, but you can identify which of their competitors are not converting well. You'll find situations like with pizza here that there was vegan pizza chains and Zoom was not vegan. And you could see the vegan ones were quickly having a very high cost per acquisition and you can block them. So recommended best practice is you set up your competitor campaigns separate, throw every single competitor into its own ad group. Also then make sure you take all of your competitive keywords like Domino's, Pizza Hut, take that list and apply it as a negative to everything else. Because what happens if someone searches for Pizza Hut delivery Los Angeles, well then that campaign or that ad group can be competing with your Los Angeles pizza delivery one. And we want the most specific keyword to fire in the right place. So yeah, we take all of just the same way we take your branded terms and apply them as negatives to your non-branded, you want to take all of your competitive terms and apply them as negatives to all of your other non-branded campaigns. And then watch out for being specific enough. So for example, MyZone Printing here in Vancouver, we compete with Ticketmaster custom tickets. I obviously can't be targeting Ticketmaster as a whole or I get slaughtered. Oh, and one final point, I haven't seen really anyone do it so far, is there's a lot of promotional opportunities within these competitive keywords. So if you think about what is the most valuable potential client, if somebody is looking for your competitor and types in the keyword promo code, how valuable would it be for you to poach that sale or that lead that late in the sales cycle? Incredible value. So keep in mind, like, how much you're prepared to pay to acquire a lead or to acquire a sale. Does that change if you know someone is late in a purchase cycle with one of your competitors? And so the way that you can customize your landing page or your website for that is on Google. Like almost all of my competitors for the accounts I manage, I'll check search volume within the ad group for say Ticketmaster or a competitor. Quite often you'll see promo code, coupon code, discounts, sale price, things like that. When you see those keywords fired, you can use software like Unbounce or any of like these tools that will pop specific promotional codes. You can embed the URL from Google Ads, letting you know that this was competitor promo code campaign. And then when that UTM parameter exists on your website, like you go to MyZone, if you want a deal from MyZone Printing, please don't share this with Ticketmaster, but if you want a deal from MyZone Printing, go to Google, search for Ticketmaster custom tickets, and you will see a first-time customer 50% off promo code. I'll lose money, but I'm like, I want that customer. So keep that in mind when you're structuring your competitive campaigns. All right, next one is account setup and granularity. 82% we're seeing problems there. So why is it important? A lot of people will just get lazy and they'll have one campaign. They might have a couple of ad groups and they just pile all their keywords in there. They're not customizing their ad creative based on a keyword. And the ad groups are not tightly matched with keyword groupings. So what we always recommend here, you have to align the complexity of your account with the budget properly. So if you're scaling up, spending 10, 20, 30, 50K per month and rising, or if you have a vision to get there, it's okay to build out pretty complex structure. But we see some mistakes where people have very low budgets with highly complex accounts. And the reason why that's a mistake, especially if you're trying to use smart bidding technologies, is that not enough data will funnel down into the individual ad groups so that the smart machine learning can optimize against. And so you end up flying blind without any bid adjustments. But typically what we see is clients have scaled up and their accounts are overly simplistic. So just wanted to quickly show you an example of just how detailed we build out. This is using one of our businesses, MyZone printing. So you can see on the left-hand side the different campaign types we have. Everything with CA there is in Canada and is replicated down below. I can't show you all of it, but there's hundreds of ad groups, if not thousands. There's probably 50 to 100 campaigns broken down between Canada and USA. So we can treat American customers different than Canadian customers in terms of the language, like free shipping within Canada, showing the prices in Canadian dollars, those sorts of things. And then if you looked here, just a breakdown on our lanyards campaign, I've got a separate ad group for blanks, for branded, for bulk, for Canada, for cheap, for clearance. And all of the ad creatives are customized. So if you look in the middle there, here, this is the cheap campaigns. The ad creatives say cheap, cheap, and it's focusing around price. And we're ABCD testing all sorts of different creatives to find which ones are getting the highest click-through rates and the lowest cost per acquisition. The same thing here. If they click on bulk lanyards, all the creative changes to bulk. Here it's cloth wristbands. I'm not just having one ad creative or 3 ad creatives generic for cloth wristbands. I'm differentiating between cheap cloth wristbands, concert cloth wristbands, like the purpose of why they're the purpose behind the product. So you can see here, this is the concert cloth wristband campaign. So we just see a ton of people that, I call it the lazy way. It's not always the right way. Going really granular with your accounts and very tightly coupling your ad creative with the keyword and with the landing page, which we'll get to later, gets you a really high quality score. When that quality score is high, your cost per click is typically lower and your conversion rates go up. Again, those of you that are new here, if you have any questions as we go, just head to myzone.com/Slido, SLIDO. You can post your questions there. Whoever has the most popular question at the end is getting a free $1,500 credit towards the Google Ads audit. All right, next one here, low ad relevance. We see a ton of situations where ads suck. So first of all, it has to start with the right account structure. If you don't have the right granularity, you can't do it. So you have to remember, again, just to customize each of your ad creatives to align with the ad group very closely, right down to those individual keywords. Another thing you want to test out is pinning the most relevant headline. If you're using responsive search ads, test out pinning. We've seen quite often click-through rates go up significantly, especially in early stage campaigns. So Google within RSAs, they're typically supposed to just rotate between all the different headlines and descriptions and find out what's best. But if I have a campaign that is like concert cloth wristbands, and one of my headlines happens to be concert cloth wristbands, that's the one that I pin, and then I'm testing out a whole bunch of different titles below. So you just want to make sure that your keyword is locked into that top position. And we typically, I'd say 80% of the time, see a significant jump in click-through rate. Keep reviewing your ad strength. Like as you post your creatives, you'll see that ad strength will say, you know, poor, good, excellent. We're finding those change over time as well with machine learning. And a lot of people just aren't looking at them. I can't, like, over half the accounts we've combed through, all of their ad creatives, like poor, good, average, they should almost all be good or excellent. So make sure you're looking at your ad strength, because that will impact your click-through rates and quality score. And keep running experiments. Don't just sit there with one set of ad creative. We're always testing new ones. So a ton of people are missing keywords. Or they've got bad keywords in the mix. So the way that you quickly identify your bad keywords and get them out, because they can be affecting the account quality score and just wasting your time. Look for you can add a column quality score, quickly identify those keywords just based on quality score, but look at your click-through rate. So if the account average is an 8% click-through rate for search, don't confuse, like you always have a really low click-through rate on display. Just filter by search campaign, and you can see your average is 8%. Look for those campaigns that are well below your average, and that'll tell you some opportunities. Now, it isn't always that the keyword needs to be blocked. It may be that you're using a broad keyword that should be phrase or exact, and you need to be building a larger negative keyword list. But that's the first thing you want to look for, is low click-through rates, high CPAs, low quality score. Typically, you want to pull that crap out, or you need to be building massive negative keyword lists around that. But when you're ready to scale up, so many people are missing amazing keywords. We go through and audit the account and we're like, oh my goodness, you're missing one of the most important keywords because you went too specific and you could have gone a little bit more broad. So the way that you do that is by using Keyword Planner, Google Keyword Planner, and combing through your search term logs. So search term logs, if you're not familiar with that, I have a little example. Okay, so this is within the MyZone printing account. So if you go into in this menu right here, search terms, and you set your time interval, you can go back and see all of the search terms over whatever period of time. Here we've got 4,300 pages, so 43,000 search terms over the last X number of years. And so that's where you find them. And I think I'm jumping around, but I want to get to this one point here. So a very important exercise that you want to do is export these search terms, bring them into a text analyzer tool, so you can start to look for the frequency of specific terms. So these are all my two-word combinations. The word ticket printing has showed up in the search term log 795 times, near me 341, and so on. And you can see individual terms like the word for has showed up 1,100 times, the word me or how. Now, a lot of people are not combing through these logs. It amazes me, like this is one of the most valuable ways of getting deep insight into your account, is crawling through the search term logs. You want to look for, what are the keywords that I should be blocking, and what are the new ad groups that I could be creating that are more specific? Or what is a negative that I could apply to an ad group to prevent this keyword from going, because sometimes you'll have keywords showing up within the wrong, firing from within the wrong ad groups, and you can carefully block them out. But this is one of the advanced tips not many people do, is you export like your lifetime data or a big chunk of data into a CSV file. This one, I'll send you the links afterwards. I'm always amazed when I go into those 1, 2, and 3 keyword combinations. Then you go back, you apply your filters and say, if the keyword contains, this is a common one that's a problem for clients, like how to, what is my average cost per conversion? Well, here it's $51. That's not too bad. But if the keyword contains why, not enough data on that one yet. But you go to your text analyzer tool, and you want to see what are those keywords that could be problematic. And I recommend you go through all of them. You know, you can see, well, the ones that you know are perfectly relevant, like ticket printing, event tickets. But here's an interesting example. So we sell physical paper tickets. Now look at the difference in conversion rate and cost per conversion. If I type in, well, printing, my average CPA on that term $26. If I type in the word print and space so that it doesn't get both. Oh, that one didn't work. There's a period in there. Cost per conversion jumps up to 93. Printer, 363. Printers, plural, 146. So if my maximum cost per acquisition was, say, $40, there'd be a bunch of different variants around printing, printers, prints, print. Look at those differences between singular and plural. Get your search terms exported up into a text analyzer tool so you can quickly see the frequency. And there's a ton of deep insight waiting for you there. So missing bad keywords, make sure you're combing through your search term logs and lots of testing. Oh, and here is a pro tip, seasonal keywords. I see a lot of people aren't thinking about these. I'll give you an example for both Club Zone New Year's Eve and also with Glow Gardens for Christmas. This is with keyword expansion around missing keywords. There's keywords that you will try out at certain times of the year or certain days of the week that won't work, that will suddenly be a gold mine as you change. For example, Club Zone New Year's Eve, we were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month driving traffic for keywords like New York, New Year's Eve parties, and what have you to Club Zone New Year's Eve pages. And we would test, say there was a hotel downtown New York, the Marriott Marquis. If we tested out those campaigns, like the hotel specific keywords, we tried them 2 months before the event, 1 month before the event, we were getting killed, like massively negative ROI, massively negative ROI. When I stumbled on the fact that when we're within about 3 days of New Year's Eve, that I can bid on every single hotel name that has traffic, they suddenly became my #1 keyword in the last 48 hours. So, and another example there with Glow Gardens, the Christmas event, the Christmas light show scaled worldwide. There was all sorts of these generic terms like things to do near me or what's going on this weekend. Even terms where they specifically say like August or what's happening this summer. But terms like tonight, today, this weekend, what's going on, like these certainly, the more generic terms are, the closer you get to the event, quite often the relevancy will suddenly shoot up and they'll start converting. So we have specific campaigns that will stack in over time and say, like, well, these ones can launch 3 months out, 2 months out, a week before, just the weekend of. So keep in mind that those seasonal keywords are out there and they can be huge. For Club Zone, that one discovery that I can bid on those big hotel names in the final 3 days, I mean, over 50% of my conversions in the final 48 hours were coming from the hotel names. And they have so much traffic. Negative keywords set up wrong. So I jumped ahead a little bit there with text analyzer, but first of all, what are negative keywords? That's when I go through the search term logs and you're bidding on Vancouver corporate gift baskets and you see someone searches for the word free or fraud or toxins or job opportunities, those sorts of things. We want to take those words, add them to your negatives. If you're not doing that, I mean, that's pretty 101. You got to be doing it. Common issues we see, people be running broad campaigns. I call them naked broad. I don't know if that's the right word, where you're running broad, but you don't have negatives to back you up. I call those naked broad campaigns. They're brutal. They will kill you. Broad these days is incredibly broad. Like you could be targeting Vancouver gift baskets as it's all good, and you'll get like ladies' gifts for anniversaries will show up. Like it's really, really broad. So if you are running broad, we normally recommend that you start with exact, tighten that up with negatives, you move to phrase, tighten that up with all of the negatives, and then you very carefully test broad and you track those search term logs every day. You should be, for a bigger campaign, like our bigger accounts, they have tens of thousands of negative keywords before we can properly run a broad campaign. So don't run broad without your protection. We also find that people are just not analyzing those search term logs frequently. Even other agencies that should be will go in and look at the change logs in Google, and they have not been looked at in the last 6 months. Like I mentioned earlier too, you can find new ad groups when you comb through the search term logs. You'll find new keyword opportunities. So it might be like you're bidding on Vancouver gift baskets and you see Vancouver gift baskets, corporate bulk. You might want to create a corporate campaign and a bulk campaign from that and separate them, and you'll get a higher click-through rate because the ad creative can then be more relevant to that more specific term. Huge opportunity. I mean, I could talk about this one for an hour. The geo-specific opportunities around negatives and around campaign structure, it's a huge beast. But specifically for negatives, if you are a local business, make sure you get a list of every single country and city in the world, excluding the regions and neighborhoods in your area, and block them as negatives. It's a huge thing that shows up. Like somebody could be you might be bidding on gift baskets and geofence yourself to Vancouver, but if you don't put Mississauga as a negative, like people in Vancouver will be looking to buy gift baskets and deliver them to a friend in Mississauga, and then those clicks are still going to fire. That's going to cost you money. So make sure you're looking at those geo-specific negatives. We see issues with negatives, people not making campaigns mutually exclusive. You want to avoid overlapping. So we talked about branded and competitive being separate. The same thing with like under MyZone printing, I might have a cloth campaign and a plastic wristband campaign. You want to try to make them not competing with each other, but you have to be careful that you don't overlap the negatives so that nothing shows. So say you have a keyword cloth wristbands and another one is vinyl wristbands. Well, if you try to block vinyl from cloth and cloth from vinyl, what happens when people search for cloth and or vinyl wristbands Vancouver? Your ads won't fire. And then also watch out for your negative keyword conflicts. That's keywords that you're bidding on that you're also blocking. That happens a lot, especially when you're adding thousands and thousands of keywords. So we regularly run a negative keyword conflict check. So these are the most common issues that we're finding with negative keywords. And that pro tip, most people never touch this. Look at the 1 and 2 keyword combinations. Once you've had, over 10,000, 20,000 clicks in your account, run them through that text analyzer tool and test out how, if, why, should, can, or, is. And you'll be shocked. You'll find an outlier, like your average account CPA is $40 and somebody puts on the word is, and now your average CPA is 119. You block is, you save 9% on your account like that. Audience exclusion, 90% of the time people are making mistakes in here. So what are audiences? The ones I'll just talk about here are based on your specific data. I mean, there's affinity, interest, demographic, in purchase, different types of audiences that rely on the data from Google and their network. I'm talking specifically about your data. So that's people that have visited your site or email addresses that you've uploaded from previous customers. So within the remarketing data from pixels, people have visited your site. The most common mistake, people are not adding the remarketing audiences for observation within their campaigns. When you're using smart bidding and you make that connection, it's just another signal that helps the smart bidding algorithm do a better job optimizing your campaigns. If you have enough traffic and you can see there's different sections of your website that have different types of visitors, people often forget that they can segment those audiences based on the URLs that are visited. You can even segment audiences of people that say come in from Facebook. You can drive them to a landing page with a UTM parameter, Facebook, throw them into the Facebook audience, and then remarket your Facebook traffic with Google remarketing on the display network, and vice versa. So if you know you're driving somebody from Google around a very specific keyword like Vancouver gift baskets versus somebody else comes in off corporate gift baskets, when they land on your site, why not take the corporate people, put them in the corporate audience, and treat them different from a creative perspective when you remarket to them versus the people that are just looking for gift baskets. Also, make sure you're looking at blocking by ages. Quite often we see clients where they're getting no sales and wasting 5% of their budget on under 18. Just click to block that. Oh, this is a big quick win that should apply to 95% of you. At least 30 to 50% savings on your remarketing campaigns without any impact on conversion. So, and make sure you test, because it's not always the case. I would say about 90% of the time this is true, is if somebody visits your website for only one time for 15 seconds or less, chances are it was an accidental click. It was your kid playing around on someone's iPad, landing on your site and hitting the back button, or somebody just clicked on a Google ad. It happens all the time. So make sure you block those people. We can create an audience for, you go into Google Analytics, you create an audience, 15 seconds or less, you import that back into Google Ads, we add that as an exclusion everywhere. Now test it out, and make sure that it's working for you, because roughly 10% of the time, it's also depending on the type of site you have, it may be working, but 90% of the time, you can save like 30 to 50% on your remarketing budgets, just like that, from purging that less than 15 seconds. And this is the number one mistake that we're seeing. It's 90+%. It's costing people a fortune. And a lot of the things I talked about is like, 2%, 5%, 8% savings all over the place. This one, I'm seeing like 100, 120 type savings. And unfortunately, it's a lot of work, and it's going to be another topic we don't have time for today, but it all comes down to poor landing page experience. So the first 15 or so years of my career, I spent very little time looking at landing pages. Thanks to smart bidding and machine learning, you can automate a lot of those bid adjustments within your account and focus. I now put 80% of my time into landing page experience. So it has a massive impact on your quality score and your cost per click. So if you can dynamically adjust the keyword on your landing page to perfectly correspond with the keyword that was clicked on here, your quality score goes up, your cost per click will drop. The impact on your conversion rate is mind-blowing. I want to give one, I can't say names on this one here, but we recently changed a form on their landing page. It used to be a one-page long form collecting all the information. We moved it to a multi-page jot form that just sort of got people hooked. What's your name? What's your email? And we got them in. It was over 100% jump in conversion rate just from changing the type of form that we were using. I've seen clients as well many, many times see 100% plus jump when we make geo-specific versions of landing pages. So if somebody comes in from Toronto, Mississauga, and you take them to the Mississauga gift basket page, I've got a client here in Vancouver that is exterior siding contractor all across from Whistler to Chilliwack, and he does vinyl, cedar, what have you. If somebody searches from Point Grey for seating cider contractors and they land on the Point Grey cedar contractor page, or if they search for company and the word contractor changes to company, they search for vinyl, the word vinyl, cedar changes to vinyl, and they search from Whistler and then Point Grey changes to Whistler, you can imagine the impact that has on conversion rates. Like we're looking at 100% plus conversion rate. So everything I talked about in the first 9 slides can be 20, 30, 40, 50% savings, depending on how bad your account is structured. This one here, if you are not using, like the one we always use, unbounce, if you're not testing new variants around form, design, copy, promotion, geo, and dynamic text replacement on landing pages, it's a whole other world. And once you get into it, you'll be like, wow, we just found a 28% improvement. You might have to spend 6 months on Google Ads to do that in 30 days on unbounce. So it's such a deep topic, and I did want to go into it more. We're actually going to be putting together another learning event. This one will be 10 reasons why your website and or landing page is bleeding cash. We're going to announce the date. It's going to be sometime in October. And we're going to show you exactly specific case studies, like how you can improve your conversion rates. 100% or more is not uncommon, with examples to back it up. And I'm sorry, we had a bit of a late start here, so a 10-minute Q&A is shortened down, but feel free to email me any of your questions. We'll get back to all of you. You can just email me, mike@myzone.com. I already have a ton of you on WhatsApp. You can message me there. And for those of you that can stick around, feel free to. We're going to jump into the Slido questions. Actually, Melai, do we have our winner? Do we have the #1 question here?
Yes, we do. So far we've received 46 questions. And the one that had the most like is from Alexa. So if Alexa can reveal her identity to you or me.
Alexa, yeah, just email me, mike@myzone.com, and we'll hook you up. But yeah, Melai, let's go through the questions right now. And if you guys don't have time, feel free to leave. I know a lot of you have appointments. Feel free to bounce. You can watch these in the recording as well. So Melai, what's the first question?
The first question is, do you have any tips in terms of strategic use of Google Ads and SEO together for more efficient campaigns?
Well, definitely we comb through the paid, it's like the search term logs under paid can give us insight about which keywords we should be optimizing for search. So that's usually the main way that I use it. I'll go through my paid and say, what is my most best converting keyword that's been providing the most value? I'll go to my search term logs. I'll export all keywords that have had 5 or more conversions, whatever that threshold is. That's my target list for organic search. So when you're coming up with your organic search targeting, you'll do all sorts of keyword analysis and keyword mapping and say, do I have that page targeting that keyword? Make sure that your paid data is part of that analysis for setting up your sort of content calendars around organic search. I have seen personally, like if you think about priming in marketing is like, you see a TV commercial, then you walk into the supermarket down an aisleway, and you see tons of cereal boxes, and which one are you more likely to pick? Big brand advertisers understand the importance of priming. Now, while Google says they keep a church and state type separation between paid and organic, I would disagree, because everything at the top there is just priming. So if you're up there in paid, and then you're also down there on the first page of organic, my theory, which I haven't proven, and it's just logical sense, if you see one name here, you're more likely to click down below. So I do think they do mutually reinforce each other. If you're higher on the page in organic and paid, you'll see click-through rates reinforce each other. So that's a little bit about the connection between the two. Okay, next one. How do you optimize your ad spend to determine the organic sales you'd have anyways versus true ad? So that goes back to the sort of PPC Halo effect we're talking about there for Sell Good and Ultimate Tools. The way I do it is you shut down your ads for a period of time, and you want to see the impact that your paid is having on organic and vice versa. So it's really just go hard for a few weeks, turn everything off for a few weeks, go into your Google Analytics, look at your paid, your organic, your direct, your social, and see how they change over time, and you'll get a feel for that. Because what I saw with one client is, wow, 30% of their organic traffic was a result of paid. You shut down paid, their organic dropped 30%. We had to attribute more value back to their conversions. I've seen other clients where you shut down their paid and their organic goes up, because paid is significantly cannibalizing their branded organic term. So the way you find that is, I call it the PPC Halo test. Okay, we can mark that one complete. Next one from Cheney. Are the recommendations you receive as notifications from Google usually relevant and or important to resolve? I think it depends on your experience level. For me personally, I read them all, and I find a good 80% of the time they don't apply to me. I get all sorts of recommendations that say, like, you're missing broad terms, like, oh, add your broad terms. I'm like, I have every single term already in exact and phrase, like, stop recommending broad to me. So you have to remember that Google is a for-profit company, and they're always looking for ways to grow your account. A lot of the recommendations that they have given us are incorrect and would mess up the account. Some of the ones that I do recommend is like when they find duplicate keywords that are spanned across, like I will remove those to clean up the account. I will use the recommendations as a guideline, but I would not follow them blindly because there's a ton of mistakes in there. Okay, next question from Paul D. We've tried multiple agencies and handling in-house. Nothing works for us over the past 3 years. How to decide when do we just accept Google Ads isn't right for us? I'd say especially because of the pandemic, there has been a huge surge in the number of Google Ads and Facebook ads and digital ad marketing agencies out there. A ton of people quit their jobs. They wanted to be able to work remotely. There's pretty low barriers to entry to create the perception that, yes, I'm a digital marketing agency. I can tell you that agencies that have less than 5 years experience, though, it's pretty hard to find like rocket scientists in that group. So I would look at how long they've been working for. So of those multiple agencies, you try to look at their experience level. I'm going at this 22 years, and the learning never stops. So saying nothing has worked for you, I would look at the credentials of those agencies, but also too, you can have a super established agency that you get in with a senior guy, they sell you on it, and they pass you off to junior employees. So the whole labor shortage issue that the world has been seeing has been just super pronounced within digital ad agency world. So chances are that you probably had somebody junior handling your account unless it was big budget. So how do we know when Google Ads isn't right for us? if you have your Google account audited and everything is running perfectly and it's well set up and you can't get a positive return on ad spend, I'd say usually within 3 months, we can figure that out. But so you need to have a well-optimized account. You usually have to spend at least $10,000, $15,000 over a 3-month period to properly test it out. I would say 10% of the time, clients that I do this with aren't a fit. We'll let them go early. 90%, even more than 90% of the time, Google Ads work. So you'd have to be pretty unlucky if you're in that, less than 10% that Google Ads doesn't work for. But just keep in mind that there's a lot of amateur talent out there, and you have to be really picky with who you pick. Tony, can a competitor bid on our company name and vice versa? Absolutely. And if you're not doing it, they're already doing it to you. So that's under the competitive keyword section. It's a huge opportunity. Some of the best converting campaigns that I have for our clients is competitor campaigns. Now, you can get into truces as well, but you might have a friendly competitor. You agree not to bid on each other's direct branded terms, but don't forget, you still have to bid on your branded terms, because if you're bidding on Vancouver gift baskets and somebody else is bidding on Vancouver gift baskets, and somebody searches for Sol Good Vancouver gift baskets, they will be bidding on the Sol Good term. So you have to protect yourself by bidding on branded regardless. What you can do is, if you have like a friendly partnership with a competitor, you can agree not to bid on the term Sol Good, and you won't bid on ABC Gift Co. But it's the longer tail terms that usually get most of the traffic there. From Dottie, what have you found the best way, in your opinion, in scaling your Google Ads campaigns? I mean, that's big. Step one is making sure you start with a big enough budget that you can get the account nicely optimized, get to a point that you've got a positive return on ad spend. You should be able to understand, what is your cost of goods sold? What is the value of a lead? What is the conversion rate from a lead into a sale? And then what is the conversion rate from a click into a lead? You have to work that sort of lifetime value of the customer acquisition all the way back into a calculation, say, what is this lead worth to me? And ultimately, like, what is the cost per click, the setting within Google? So once you've nailed those metrics, which is key, and you can see the numbers are positive, like I'll pay up to $400 to acquire a lead, they're worth $2,000 to me, I'll get a 4x return on every lead, and you get it back to there. And once you can see your cost per lead is significantly lower than the value and then what you're prepared to pay, then you start to inch your budgets up. Now remember, as you increase your budgets, some of the keywords that weren't firing in the past will suddenly open up and get traffic. So every time there's a budget change, you really need to be digging through your search term logs and being really vigilant with the account. Some things that were working in the past may start to fail. And also keep in mind too, that the returns to scale as you scale up a budget typically look like this. There might be a period where performance is doing this, it kind of hits a ceiling, and then it'll fall off a cliff and get too expensive. So we kind of call this like budget elasticity testing. You just sort of raise your budgets, test out what is the upper point. Like if I raise my target CPA from 40 to 50 to 60 to 70, at what point does it no longer work economically? What point will things just get too expensive? So step one, nail the account on a fairly small budget. Make sure you understand your complete equation of lifetime value all the way down to the cost per lead, and make sure that there's clear return on ad spend, and then slowly step up your budgets. Be super vigilant on your search term logs, and do some elasticity testing to find the sweet spot for you. Arnold says, should we try to resist Google Ads trend to let more and more things decided by their AI and try to maintain as much control as possible, or is it useless? It's useless. The bots are taking over. I fought with the bots for about 5 years. I would have manual versus AI, and I kept winning, and I was all proud of myself. This is back in the days of clubzone.com and New Year's Eve, and I was in the saddle for putting in my 10,000 hours. And I had all sorts of bid adjustments, time of day, day of week, postal code, age, device type, you name it. I had them all mapped out, and they were all iterative. And I felt like we were crushing it because we were doing better than machine learning at the time. That was 6-7 years ago, 8-9 years ago. I think I lost 3 years in the pandemic there. I have not done a test in the last 2 years where I've beat the bots. The only time that we would do manual is at the very, very beginning of a campaign, when we're just trying to get enough conversion data that we can switch to smart bidding. So we'd start with, say, maximize clicks or manual, we would apply, the top 5 bid adjustments. Be careful, your manual stage should only be, depending on budget, like a couple of weeks. And quite often, you don't even have to worry about bid adjustments as long as it's a quick manual test to get enough data. But if you know that mobile devices convert 40% lower on your account, you can give a quick -40 on mobile for manual. That's one thing to watch out for. But that's the only time that we use manual, is when you're getting an account moving. Also, sometimes too, you might experience something like algorithmic fatigue, or your conversion rates are sort of changing over time, like that hits and your industry is shut down and things are starting to come back, but the smart bidding is no longer working for you. So the way that we reset the algorithms to say, hey, conversion rates are back, events are running again, is we temporarily move back to a manual stage, maximize clicks, collect some new data, and then switch it back to smart bidding. So those are the only times that we're using manual these days, and I've tested it extensively. Greg says, if we move Google Ads in-house, what are the top 5 KPIs you recommend we track on a monthly basis? How many times per month do ad managers spend monitoring? I mean, it depends on your budget. On an established campaign like MyZone printing, it's been around for 15 years. You look at it like an hour a week, there's not a lot to do there. Whenever you're making changes to the account, it's like daily monitoring. So yeah, it depends on how much you're changing and how big your budgets are. But typically when we launch a new account, it's like daily analysis of the search term logs. The way that we decide when we move from daily to weekly to monthly, this is the test we use. We talk about what percentage of your search terms get added to negatives. So if you go to your search term logs, you look at your top 500 results, you're going through looking for negatives, and every time you find a negative, you click, you add it to a CSV, you block. Look for about 5% or less. Once you hit that, you can expand your time horizon for audits. So even 10% if you want to be, a little bit more lazy. So it means like if you go through a page of 500, if you've got more than 25 negative keywords that you're adding from that analysis, then you should continue with daily or weekly, and then just keep adjusting from there. Most of our accounts, we get down below 5% negative keywords that are being added in review, and then you can just expand that time horizon. Top 5 KPIs we track. I mean, we always there's so many different reporting tools. We use this one, Agency Analytics. So we have all of our clients, they get their own sort of custom dashboard up in here. I haven't set this one up yet, but yeah, typically we will look at the cost per acquisition over time. I look at click volume, search impression share. I mean, honestly, those summary reports aren't enough. I'm highly analytical. So I actually just use the Google Ads app on my phone, and you can drill down into a lot of different things. When things are running smooth, there's not a lot to look at. I can look at high level indicators like daily spend, search impression share, clicks, cost per click, CPA, conversion value. Those are kind of the top ones we're looking at. But when things are going wrong, I have to absolutely drill down within the desktop version. And there's hundreds of things we're looking at, from quality score to landing page experience to ad rank and so on. So yeah, the mobile app is great for your top 5, 6 indicators. You go deeper within desktop. Dottie, what type of setup would you recommend for e-commerce with performance? Because this question came in really early, I think before the event. I messaged my team. I'm like, I'm not sure the answer to this one. So sorry, Dottie. I'm going to skip it. My experience with Performance Max is that it's a bit of a smoke show. With the fact that your branded search terms get blended in there, makes it very, very hard to optimize and know what's going on. So my gut feeling here is if you have a well built out campaign with display and search and remarketing and proper granularity and all your negatives and everything set up, and you throw in Performance Max, I think it's just going to start eating away at what everything else was doing. If you can get your brandeds blocked within Performance Max, carefully test it, there is a big opportunity. I think the future is Performance Max. It's going to make all of our lives a lot easier when it's working. But right now, I find it a bit confusing as to what's actually happening behind the scenes. So e-commerce campaign, right away, we saw that 78% of e-commerce sites, our clicks are coming from Google Shopping campaigns. So I would say kill Performance Max, start with Google Shopping, layer in some testing and do careful research with Performance Max, making sure you're blocking all of your branded terms. Lindsay says, how do agencies base proposals on migrating clients to GA4? I've heard a wide range of investment from people being able to in-house themselves to 50K. Geez, wow. I mean, we normally charge about 800 to 1,500 bucks to do a GA4 migration, but we typically start with an audit, and depending on what their needs are, the price can range from 800 to 1,500. But I don't think there's, unless you're a massive, multinational, I don't see any reason why it'll be more than a couple grand to do a GA4 migration. But something that's really important to know: Google Analytics 4, the cutoff date for the switch is about a year away. So if you haven't already made the switch, you have to do it now. Otherwise, when you're forced to make that switch in 12 months, you won't be able to compare data from 12 months prior. And that's super important that you can see year over year comparison. So Google Analytics 4 is coming in about a year. You got to switch now. Don't pay more than $2,000 for a GA migration unless you're a Fortune 500. And I think it's something you can figure out in-house as well. Just watch, as long as you have a resource that wants to learn that stuff. Robert says, I get a lot of SEO organic traffic and feel that Google AdWords is taking a lot of credit, causing my ROS to be pretty high. How does one evaluate that? The halo effect testing from the video. I can tell these questions all came in earlier. So turn your ads on, turn your ads off, watch the impact they have that you can't measure. Before you do that, make sure you seal off your conversion. Like we saw, again, the example from Saul Good. They had conversions coming through phone, through leads, but they were only tracking e-commerce, and 30–40% of the value was coming here. So first of all, you need to seal off the bucket, figure out all of your conversions, the value, and then you want to do the testing. Spend hard for 2 weeks, turn it off for 2 weeks, turn it back on, and then track your organic, direct, social, and the non-paid traffic and see what impact is coming external. Sometimes your paid will be cannibalizing your organic. Quite often, it is amplifying it, and you need to understand that. Paul D, how important is quality score for overall ad success? It is so important that we're doing an entire presentation on that in October, how to maximize your quality score. So quality score, click-through rate is of course part of it. Relevancy of the keyword, relevancy of the landing page is massive. So being able to dynamically adjust your landing pages based on the keyword is huge. Quality score is high, cost per click is low. It's everything. And the difference between like first spot and second spot in paid can be like double or triple the clicks. So you need to fine tune every little thing you can do so that you can justify that first place position and still be positive ROI, and you will gobble up the industry. So these little differences, they all matter, and quality score is a huge difference. What tools, from Andrew, what tools do you recommend people use? I haven't used any of those tools, if that answers part of your question. I mean, we're big on Google Analytics. Melai, what else are we using? I mean, spreadsheets. We have, I think, a really important thing that we always do. We have a media buying meeting once a week. We have a team of 4 or 5 people that meet up and we just debate strategy with each other. I think that's really important, especially if you have in-house teams. Make sure they're not working in isolation. So the beauty of working with an agency is we get exposure to like 30 to 50 different ad accounts at any given point within MyZone. But then we have other partner agencies that we debate strategy with. So we're always learning. I think the risk is if you have somebody in-house working in isolation without that kind of exposure, as they slowly get outdated with their thoughts. So tools, your brain, math, mastermind groups, super important. You of course need to have all of your data, real-time reporting, and that's like, Report Garden, Tap Clicks, Agency Analytics. You need to have your Google Analytics. Mela, am I missing anything? I mean, landing page software for sure, like Unbounce for A/B testing, landing pages, that's huge. UTM parameters to properly track and update things. I've tested out some of the Google Ads automation platforms in the past, and I found that they were just cumbersome, expensive. And also, I think we kind of specialize in the smaller business market, like a lot of the 100 employees and less. So we don't get into like, most of our clients are below 100K per month. But I think like as you get into much larger buys, you get into a different level of expertise that I don't have. So hopefully that answers a bit of your question there.
We also use SEMrush, Mike, in collaboration with SEO, and we recently tried SimilarWeb just to see, because you can get an insight of how much your competitors are spending, for example, and you can also see like their best performing ads as well.
Right. Yeah, and the keyword analysis tool that's built into Google is incredibly powerful and competes with SEMrush. And just getting the basics going and checking through your search term logs provide you deep insight into keywords as well. So even if you miss 40% of your keywords, you're fine. You'll see them all in the search term logs and you can start to add them. I thought this was an important question. I was actually just testing out the software, but I'll answer this now. That's me, Mike Schwarz. What's a good starting budget for Google Ads newbie? Spend as little as you can so that you can collect your data quickly. The big mistake I see some of our clients, they insist on spending like $1,000 a month while they collect data. I kind of recommend somewhere in the $2,500 to $5,000 per month if you're using an agency, because time is money and it takes time to collect the data so that we can properly optimize an account and even understand what the opportunity is. So a good budget range, $2,500 to $5,000 per month to establish the value, what your return on your ad spend is, and you can sort of scale up from there. If you're spending $500 to $1,000 a month, you're not going to collect data fast enough, and suddenly 6 months go by and you still don't know what's going on. Tony R, is there a way to get dedicated support from really good specialists at Google instead of random people calling from Google's offshore cost center? I block Google and I hate it. Every 3 months for the last 22 years, I get about 5-6 emails from Google reps asking if they can help me. And I've got on phone calls with so many of them, just like those Google recommendations, and their recommendations are crap. We've hired a lot of people from Google. The Google training centers are very like sales oriented, and they're not, they don't deeply understand your business. There's so many unique nuances with each industry. Training they get there is boilerplate and it's sales oriented. They have performance goals to upsell you on things. I cannot stand talking to the Google reps. Yes, like we as an agency, like when you spend enough money, you do get dedicated reps that can help you. Mel, I don't know if we have any other media buyers on the call right now, but I do know our media buyers there. Whenever we get stuck, we have a dedicated line that we can pick up the phone and call. That might be an advantage of having an agency. Or I think like in the past, even just under an individual account, like back when MyZone was spending, or Club Zone was spending $300K in December on New Year's Eve clicks, we had a phone call from like a VP and they actually come in there and spend hours with you and actually know what they were doing. So I think you have to get to really high spend level, like over 100K per month consistently, or you have to be an agency that rolls up a whole bunch of businesses under one umbrella before you can get that support. The crap that you get from their call center is absolutely, as you called it, it's crap. Well, you didn't call it, I called it crap, but it is. How narrow of a focus should campaign audiences be if trying to drive conversions on a limited budget? Super narrow. We talked about account complexity. A big mistake people make is they over-architect an account with a small budget. If you got a small budget, like start with 1 campaign, 5 ad groups, 50 keywords. Don't build out that complexity. So it's hard to say. It's almost like narrow is a subjective term depending on your perspective. So it's kind of hard to guide this question. But if complex is a 10 and lightweight is a 1, and the budget for a complex strategy fully built out is 20K per month, your budget on a narrow campaign is maybe $1,000 a month. You might have 1 campaign here and 50 campaigns over here. Like the complexity kind of rises exponentially as you increase your spending. So it's kind of like launching software. We call it like an MVP approach, minimal viable product. You want to get your software out there, start collecting user feedback before you build all the software and find out nobody wants it anyways. It's the same approach within Google Ads. You want an MVP approach. Build as little and simple as possible to test, to validate, to prove, and then scale. So some of the complex strategies that we often have, like these geo-specific campaigns, like having a different campaign for Vancouver versus Surrey versus Toronto versus Philadelphia, that's an advanced strategy. It adds a ton of complexity. You don't need to worry about that. You might want to do a national test, or maybe you just start testing in Ontario. See how Ontario is working, and maybe test Ontario versus Canada, or maybe you're testing Canada versus USA. Then maybe once you see USA is working, you test LA specific versus LA national or USA national. If you can see, hey, I'm getting a significantly higher conversion rate within my LA campaign, now you can build out New York, Chicago, DC, and build out that complexity. But yeah, start super, super lightweight. Anonymous, would you recommend hiring an agency with 60K annual spend? That's a great question. We get that one a lot. I think like the amount that you're currently spending isn't a factor. It's how much you can potentially be spending. So I would say if you don't have the potential to be spending at least $10,000 a month or $120,000 per year, you shouldn't be talking to an agency. An agency, like if they're charging you roughly $2,500 per month is sort of like an entry-level management, and you're spending 10 grand a month, that's 25% of your budget. A good agency can save you 20 to 50% just on your Google and 20 to 100% on your landing pages, but you have to spend enough that it makes sense. So if you're spending 2 to 5K per month right now, I wouldn't say an agency can't work for you. It's if you have no plans on spending, like if you knew that you could improve the efficiency of your account 40% and you could quadruple the budgets, would you say yes? Like quite often with agencies, that's the stuff that you can learn and you can test. But yeah, if you're not planning on scaling up and you don't think there's any potential to scale beyond 10, 5, 10K per month, I would keep it all in-house, keep it super simple and cheap on your own. Does any Google core algorithm update affect pay per click performance? Google organic search algorithm update? No. Google core, I'm assuming they're referring to organic search bots and that algorithm. I mean, yeah, there could be some impact if you suddenly rocket into the #1 position from organic search. That should increase the click-through if you're paid. So, this isn't verified or confirmed from Google. I talked about that separation of church and state, but we talk also about priming. So if you're high in organic and you're high in paid, they're both going to do better. But otherwise, no. Anonymous, what can you say specifically about using Google Ads for local businesses, local service businesses? I mean, first of all, when you register your business through Google My Business, you can add the local search ad extension to your account. So it shows a pin, you show up on Google Maps. Make sure you got your Google My Business page nicely built out with articles and promotions and photos and all of that stuff. And then you can connect your Google My Business and your location specific through an extension. So somebody searches for your business, you'll see a little pin in the address, you get a higher click-through rate. That's sort of one step. Another thing we do for local businesses is we'll very carefully geofence. I usually go with like different radiuses. So my brother-in-law runs a gym out in Coquitlam, an MMA gym, Titan Training Center. And we want to understand, like, is it 5, 7, 10, 12, 15 kilometers out? How far are people prepared to travel? So when we set up like a local campaign like that, we'll test different geographic regions and we'll look at what's the click-through rate and the cost per acquisition and say, you know what, 15 kilometers is too far. The sweet spot is 12. So that's one thing that we do for local. And then also playing to if you're a chain or if you serve multiple regions, even within local. So say you might be in Vancouver and you service West Vancouver, North Vancouver, and Burnaby and downtown. Well, we recommend even there geofencing those regions and treating that traffic differently. Because if someone's searching for, say you're a hairdresser in North Vancouver, but you service customers in West Vancouver and it's close enough, you can adjust your language to speak to them, like say, customizing ad creative based on their location, geofencing carefully, and testing, integrating Google My Business directly into your location extensions and showing up on the maps. I think that's it. I'm not an expert with local. I'd say I'm about a 7 out of 10. Hopefully that's enough for you. Any other questions I've missed, you can always email me. We have a whole team that can respond as well. Jay says, are PPC landing pages taken into consideration for organic SEO too? Yes, they are. So we use Unbounce. You can set up a subdomain. You can optimize them for organic search. You can add them to your sitemaps. They get crawled, they work. Just be careful too that if you do start connecting them to your navigation and they're not just landing pages, like if they're actually being crawled, watch for duplicate content penalties, because quite often the landing pages will just be clones and clones and clones of content you already have on your site. So you have to use your canonical tagging properly if it's a duplicate. But yes, they work great for organic SEO as well. Anonymous, what's the best and easiest way to move from having an external Google Ads provider to bringing it in-house? Bringing it in-house, honestly, like I know I have a bias here because I run an agency, but bringing it in-house is a challenge. If I wanted to super cheap out and get a really good job, I would probably hire an agency for 3 to 6 months to set everything up, to crush it, make sure it's a really good established agency. And then I would bring in somebody in-house to maybe maintain it after like all the heavy lifting has been done. I know my team is probably just cringing. Why are you saying that? But bringing it in-house from the very beginning is a challenge unless you've got somebody very senior. And it is very hard to find senior Google Ads people. Unless you're going like an ultra low budget, super simplistic campaign, it's going to be incredibly challenging to find somebody in-house who can really build out something that will scale up. So the cheapest way of doing it is hiring agencies to do audits, review, come up with the game plan, do the strategy, do the initial heavy lifting, and create a platform so someone in-house can take it from there. But if you are going with in-house, again, make sure they're part of a mastermind group. They need to be doing it full time, studying. We wouldn't hire somebody with less than 2-3 years full-time Google Ads experience. There's a lot of training behind it. So I'm not a huge fan of in-house personally. Akshay. Are there any AI tools to dynamically manage Google ad spend within a budget and based on what drives maximum conversions? Well, to manage a Google ad spend within a budget, we just use maximize conversions and you set the budget. So maximize conversion is an AI-powered smart bidding technology. You set the budget 5,000 per month. And based on what drives the maximum conversion? Well, they have a whole bunch of different signals that they look at, time of day, day of week, location, remarketing lists, time spent on website, affinity, audience, all sorts of, like, there's a huge list that the AI is taking into consideration, day of week. So they will optimize based on an expected conversion rate and cost per acquisition, and then they will grab you to say within your set budget, you set a budget 5,000 per month, we will use our algorithm to get you as many possible conversions within that budget. And there's like 57 signals that will drive the decision. James, how does all this apply to B2B versus B2C? Verbiage, language, Melai? I don't see any difference in B2B versus B2C with these strategies.
Oh, I think this was in reference to setting the conversions that we're tracking. So this came in earlier when you were talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, everything I talked about will apply to either a B2B or a B2C campaign. I don't see any difference from there. Shawnee, what are a couple of examples of your favorite landing pages and why? Sure, let's show you one. So this is a client, governmentaid.com. They help US companies get tax credits on their employees based on the employee retention credit. Their original website was here. It has been improving, but we didn't like their website too much. It was short. There wasn't a lot of information. We added the video for them. They grabbed that from the landing page, but it was just kind of like, I didn't like the design. There wasn't a lot of content. So we bought a domain for them, governmentaid.com. We made it look official like a government website. We added a custom little explainer video. We explained more and some results and testimonials and photos. And there's a strong call to action on every page. Get qualified. As you scroll, you're always one click away from that call to action. FAQs, testimonials from the Boston Red Sox. Anyway, I think this landing page is way, way better. It follows a bunch of the best practices. So these headlines can dynamically adjust based on keyword to help improve the quality score. There's a real clear benefit statement and a strong call to action on everywhere. We tested out single page forms versus multi-page forms. So this one here, we can reject people if they have less than 5 employees. It will reject them and not count the conversion. They'll give the a lot of problems that people have with conversion rate optimization on like lead gen pages is that they'll get like really low they have a problem with relevancy of the leads that are coming in. So if you get into a multi-page form like this, you can kick out all of the people that aren't relevant by asking enough questions, only report the conversion at the very end. And that's the data that you send back to the algorithm and say, get me more of these people, right? So I'm a big fan of jot forms for this and lead qualifying questions. And if you say like no to certain questions, it'll boot you out and it won't record the conversion. It'll look at me and try to find commonalities with other people. And then you talk about what are those machine learning AI signals that it'll optimize against. I mean, it looks at everything from my browser data to what have you to make these decisions. So this is a form I really like. We like to incorporate video wherever possible. Always make the navigation and a strong call to action visible, integrate testimonials. And then the key there is really testing. So we can create 5 versions of that page and see which one is working best. Another one, let's take a look at, okay. So this is a neat project we worked on for EO Vancouver member Tamsin from Tamwood College. And they were originally driving traffic from different cities and countries like Mexico versus Argentina versus Colombia. So that's why. And so first thing we did is we wanted to customize the landing page based on the country of origin. So here, the Mexican page, we have different imagery, we have different pricing, we have a different flag. This is a very Mexican version. Then if you go to say Colombia, this is an example of, what's the URL for Colombia? How do you Colombia? Probably an O.
Yeah, with an O.
Colombia. There you go. So different imagery, different flags. So customizing your landing page based on the location. I was really proud of this project. And we also did a lot of work testing various forms. But yeah, I thought that was a good example, another example of how you can customize based on the location of the visitor. And it also dynamically adjusts based on keywords. Anonymous, if I want somebody in my team to do all this work and analysis, what's the name of the position? Google Ads Manager. At least 2 years experience. Michael, sorry, not here, 2:30 a.m. and wherever in the world that is. How much would you suggest I set up global focused lead campaigns? I'm selling mechanical hardware to customers that are pretty much anywhere. Start small, MVP, test in one market. Test like if you were in just targeting the United States, I would test one USA-wide campaign versus an Los Angeles specific. I would start with very small budgets, a very simple account, and yeah, test, validate, scale. One thing I've seen with clients that are targeting different countries is you may start out with forced budgets, like not shared budgets, like you might give $100 a day to Germany and $100 a day to Italy. But over time, where you want to move to is you want to understand what is the cost per acquisition in each country, and then move to a shared budget and a target CPA that's consistent. And it might be that, because for example, if your cost per acquisition in Germany is $100, in Italy it's $40, you should spend as much money as you can in Italy until you've exhausted that market. And like, yeah, so going with shared budgets and consistent target CPAs across all of the countries, and then letting Google decide what's the most valuable market for me. That's usually how we do it, and test small and customize the landing pages, just like that example we showed you with Tamwood based on the country. So customize the language, the currency, the testimonials. You can put client logos from clients in that country or those cities. We do that as well. Like if you go to a landing page for MyZone in Toronto, it shows all of our Toronto clients versus the landing page in Vancouver. So customize your testimonials, customize your client logos. You can even put in a custom phone number. You can spin up phone numbers dirt cheap within Google and have like a country-based phone number that reroutes to a calling center, but do all those customizations on the landing pages as well. Anonymous, what strategies do you implement for greatest success with Google Ads? Watch the presentation. Okay, John, how do you feel about using a third-party call tracking system like Callwell versus Google's Ads built-in tracking numbers? I had no problem with Google Ads built-in tracking systems. CallRail, I don't know if Google is doing the recordings of the calls. I liked when I had a call center and I could go and actually listen to what people said, but I've used both and I liked them both. I can't remember any problems with either of them. So I think they're both great platforms. Brandon, what's more important, ad search results or organic search results via Google? Paid. It's sad but true. Over 68, call it 70% of clicks for commercially relevant search terms are going to paid. And that percentage keeps increasing. I remember 10 years ago, it was like 20 to 40% range, and it just keeps rising. So, well, it depends on what you're doing. If you have a low value, low conversion rate search term, like a news portal, and you're talking about like political opinions, organic search will be everything for you. Or if you're in a banned industry like cannabis or psilocybin, organic search will be everything for you because it's blocked. But if you're out there bidding for like, I don't know, web hosting or domain names or whatever it is you're selling that has high commercial intent, you'll get, I would always recommend you start first with paid, get it to positive ROI, and then you build your long-term strategy with organic SEO, which will only get you up to 30% of that total market. And that's decreasing every year. So I always start with paid. SEO is long-term. And I think the way Google is going, SEO will probably be half the value in the next 5 years on those commercial terms. That's just the trend. It's been doing this for 20 years. Cyril. Oh, hey, Cyril. How are you? I think that's the Cyril I know. How do you see the future for search campaigns as shopping, performance max campaigns, and other formats take more and more share of search result real estate? I think the future for Google Ads in general is going to be more and more automation, less, just getting easier and easier for people to do things on their own. I think a lot of platforms like Facebook ads was the first to truly really try and dumb it down. Like, click here, boost, what's your budget? Okay, you're done. Like those strategies on Facebook, we can crush them with intelligent strategies within Ad Manager, but it's getting there, you know, so I think like the future is Performance Max. It is all of this automated campaigns, like the discovery. I think in less than 5 years, like a lot of the jobs that we do as a Google Ads agency will be obsolete. I really think so. We've been spending more and more time on like creative strategy, lead nurturing, like after the lead comes in, the email journeys, how do we warm them up? How do we improve the conversion rate of a lead into a Calendly booked call, or from a call into a sale? That stuff I think is really important, like lead nurturing, landing page, creative experimentation. Where I think you're going to see less and less work for agencies or in-house teams, it's going to be like finding the right keywords and writing I think ad creative will be completely automated. Keyword discovery will be completely automated. Even dynamically adjusted bidding strategies based on e-commerce, a lot of that stuff will be automated. So I think the future is Performance Max and some of these other automated strategies. Yeah, I think they will keep taking more and more. What is your position on the future of paid search? Yeah, I think we just covered that. It's going to get more and more automated until you'll just go like, hey, Google, maximize sales on my website. What is your budget? 5,000 per month. Thank you. Please confirm. You'll do it from your smart speaker on your computer will be built into your glasses, and it'll automatically come out of your crypto account. Lisa Hull, best question of the day. How do we hire you to help us save money for our company? Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate that question. I can't solicit, so just email me. It's EO. We don't sell, just teaching here. But yeah, I mean, we're an agency, and if you're interested in working with us, just give us an email. We're happy to chat offline. Ben, what has the biggest impact on improving conversion rates on lead gen campaigns? Biggest impact was that number 10 point, landing page optimization, 100+% wins consistently across multiple clients. That's your number one. Anonymous, what is your current solution for attribution tracking? I'm going to not answer that question here, and we will post that in the wrap up. I don't have a good answer for you there. Attribution tracking is very complex unless you have a centralized CRM like a HubSpot or something in the middle to do that. There's a lot of redundancy, like your Google ads will report a conversion and then Facebook will report the same conversion, and your email marketing manager will be like, yeah, I got a convert. It's all the same conversion. So the challenge there is, I think that, maybe I can answer this question right now, and it's not my expertise, but I have researched it extensively in the past. I've never played in this sandbox, but you need to have a marketing automation platform like a Marketo or a HubSpot that looks at, like, your entire website needs to be in their framework, and they have to track every single interaction. They integrate with all your media buying tools, and they will provide you that strategy. So yeah, can I tell you which of the tools are best? No, but the biggest ones, the most common ones, Marketo, HubSpot, I hear those names all the time. But attribution tracking is a challenging science that is constantly shifting. I mean, the whole iOS 14 on Facebook issues and privacy and pixels dropping, and a lot of people are, having to live off of surveys and first-party data. Long story short, I'm not your attribution expert, and it's a confusing field. Anonymous, hiring, how do you find Google superstar talent? Look for people that have been doing, like, it's the top grading methodology. The best prediction of how people are going to be in the future is what they've been done in the past. So stuff that we look for. Actually, one thing to avoid, and sorry for, I feel bad saying it, but it's true. I guess this is a fairly confidential forum, but I haven't had that good success from people that have directly worked for Google. So usually I get excited. I'm like, oh my God, they worked at Google for 4 years. Like, come work with us. It's not necessarily that they're good or bad. It's Google is very, like, primitive in the sales strategy they give people. It's sort of a creative expansionary thinking that you have within agencies or within entrepreneurship. So I would use the top grading methodology, look at people that have committed their lives to Google. Like, you can probably hear that excitement in my life when I talk about Google. Like, people who are nerds and love data and love Google, you can smell it, you can feel it. So I would say, like, look at that track record. They should have been working on it for at least the last 2-3 years. When you ask them what's a discovery that they've had within Google Ads that they're most excited about, like, they should be going into details, like pulling up, oh, when I export this, I can do this and that, and I save this much money over here. Like, you'll hear that. So look for a track record of history. Having worked for Google means nothing and might even be a red flag. And they need to explain with passion and detail about what they've been doing. Highly analytical people. Ben, are you able to share your 100-point audit checklist? Absolutely. So we've worked on this checklist. We just keep refining it every week. It's in years of development. We're going to share that whole kit with you. And that's part of the thing. We don't want this to be solicitation with any EO. So we're going to give you all of our everything. You can do it in-house. The only reason that you couldn't is if you don't have the right resource, but we'll give you step-by-step steps on everything that we talked about and everything we, well, we're going to give you the full 127-point plan. We only talked about the top 10. So yes, Anonymous, you mentioned small budgets on smart ads. What should the budget be to provide value? I mean, overall budget, I wouldn't spend less than, $1,000 a month on a very small limited test. I think, like, you can work backwards in some senses. I saw my TikTok feed is filled with, like, media buying advice on TikTok, and this girl was talking about how she determines the optimal budget for TikTok. And I think this sort of strategy works across all media buying platforms. So I'll share that. And she was saying that, like, the TikTok algorithm, for example, doesn't move to smart until you get to 50 conversions or more within 30 days or something like that. And so she was saying, well, you need to look at what is your average cost per acquisition? What will it cost you to get your 50 conversions within that period of time that it can do its optimization? You do the math, and that'll determine sort of the optimal budget to move to smart bidding. I hope that provides some value. Specifically, Melai, Clara, do we have any, like, how do we determine, like, a really small budget? I guess it just depends on the complexity of the number of keywords, the number of ad groups. If it's a small budget and you can do a $5 a day budget and be fine if you've got one campaign and one ad group and 3 keywords. So I think it just depends on the complexity of the account that's underlying, and just be careful to align the complexity with the budget. I think a good test is when Google recommends that you move to a smart bidding strategy. Like if you're in a manual maximize clicks, they will recommend when you can start to shift. Like in the past, it used to be like there was some sort of number, like you have to hit 50 conversions within 30 days type of thing, but it's a sort of gray area now within Google. So, but you can be in manual, and if they're never recommending you switch to smart, under the recommended, that's one recommendation I would listen to when they say you're bidding maximize clicks. We recommend you move to target CPA, except yes. So Google will sort of tell you when you're ready to switch over. And if it's taking too long to switch, try increasing your budgets. How do we know which is the best conversion type for our business? I mean, I would need to do a needs analysis with your business to understand. But I mean, if you're an EO, there's a 76% chance that'll be lead generation. A lot of clients will be a combination of lead generation, phone calls, e-commerce, contact us forms, and they all can have a slightly different value. So you want to close that full conversion funnel as tight as you can. That was the first point in the presentation. Got a tip or trick for AdWords when promoting a digital agency when you sell PPC Google Ad services? Do I want to give a tip or a trick to a competitor to sell more of what I'm selling? Absolutely. That's what EO is all about. So customizing your landing pages specifically to the audience has been very impactful for me. So if someone types in Google Ads Manager and they're in Mississauga, look at the Mississauga landing page. I think that's important. Changing up the keywords. If they type in Google AdWords Consultant, Google Ads Specialist, Google Ads Agency, changing up all of those keywords. And really hyper localizing the pages with localized phone numbers, imagery. So our page for Ottawa has different imagery. You would think when you see our Google Ads management landing page in Ottawa, you think we are in Ottawa. We're not. So change up people. Once they get you on the phone and you build a relationship over a Zoom call, and most people don't care. We've got clients all around the world, well, within certain time zones, and they don't really care that we're remote, especially in this day and age. But that's my biggest tip when you're selling. Oh, another thing is offer something for free. Think when you're acquiring a customer and you want to get that early conversion. So what we do is we'll, like, depending on the market and our funnel and our pipeline, we'll offer sometimes a free Google Ads audit that's worth $1,500 if we're not too busy, or 50% off. Offering like a free audit as opposed to selling them on just a service, I think that's a really good step as well. Get your foot in the door, nice and easy. Channy Smith, do you suggest bidding on competitors' clients by creating keywords that use the branding of our closest peers? No. Oh, use the branding of our closest peers. I mean, I'm not 100% sure what you're getting at there, but I'll tell you, when I'm bidding on competitive keywords, I will make my ad creative as sneaky as possible without violating any trademarks. I'll give the example of MyZone printing versus Ticketmaster. It's like, we master custom tickets. Like, I don't say Ticketmaster, but there's the word master and tickets somewhere on that page. But I would never go out there and say better than Ticketmaster custom tickets. Now, the laws in Canada and USA are different about what we can and can't say, but most of those big branded terms are trademarked and they'll be blocked automatically from the ad creative. But just because your ad is blocked from saying a word like Hilton or Marriott, you can still bid on the term. So if I was trying to compete with a hotel and I could bid on the keyword Hilton, I've even tried doing HI, the number 1, TON, and snuck through when I was bidding on keywords, and I can put the word Hilton and then I get a warning from Google. Don't do that. It's not worth it anymore. But yeah, so you can bid on any keyword what you want, but the ad creative, I would keep it clean, get creative, get fun with it, check with your lawyers what's legal in each country. So yeah, you can kind of use competitive branding carefully in there, but you can't use trademark terms, and you don't want to start a war with people. Anonymous, is it a myth or not that when you log into your campaigns and make any changes, you get some leads almost instantly? I never even heard that one, but I have felt that one. I will pass, and if we have any more info, we'll post it in the package we're sending out afterwards. How do we remove branded names from Performance Max campaigns? I believe it's a manual outreach to your Google rep. Is that right, Melanie? That's what Kat was doing, wasn't she? You have to like reach out to them and ask them to do it. 95% sure it'll soon be automated. Jay says, which ad will be displayed higher? A, the one with a high quality score and low bid, or B, the one with a low quality score and a high bid? As my economics teacher would say, it all depends, Jay. So yeah, it's math, and they come down to a score. I think it's called ad rank, and then they rank based on that. So you multiply they're all functions, right? So you take the cost per click, you multiply it by the quality score and landing page. All of the signals that roll up into quality score will get multiplied by your bid. So yeah, I've seen the theoretical science. I don't know the exact. It's sort of behind a black box at Google, but the theoretical behind it is if you're bidding $2 and you have a really high quality score, somebody else could be bidding $5 with a low quality score, and you can still outbid them. So while I don't know the exact math, I do know that I do everything I can to get quality scores 8, 9s, and 10s. Try to have nothing below 8 on your account. I mean, 7s are okay, but definitely not 6 or lower. So I don't think it matters. I think what matters is just maximizing your quality score. What are your thoughts about Google local service ads? I don't even know. Melee, Clara? I'm going to pass. I don't know.
Pablo's also in this call.
Pardon me?
Pablo's also in the call.
Pablo, what are Google local service ads? I don't even know.
No, I'm not.
I think this might be the same as the first question about local ads.
How do you target Google local? Yeah, Google My Business page.
Yeah.
Local extensions show up in maps, and geofencing tightly and testing different radiuses, if that's the question. Paolo from Switzerland. Hello, Paolo. We found out that our prospects CISOs don't convert at all. We stopped ads, but our competitors use our brand in their ads. Should we bid on our brand anyway? Absolutely. You need to be bidding on your brand. We're finding it your own prospects don't convert at all. Well, I think you need to do landing page experimentation and look for 100, 200% jumps in conversion rate. There's absolutely no reason why your branded terms shouldn't be converting. So my guess is you've got a conversion rate issue on your landing page. Or drill down in the search term logs for your branded terms and look for like negatives. Some people just assume that they bid on branded and they don't need to have negatives for the branded terms. For MyZone, like MyZone health band, go to myzone.org and you'll see my biggest pain in the butt for my branded terms. And I have to do all sorts of negatives around the word MyZone. So branded negatives, customized landing pages. I can't see any reason why a branded term would not convert well. And definitely don't give it up to your competition. Let's wrap it up here. The questions just keep on going. Thank you guys so much for sticking around and being engaged. And those of you that watched the recording to the end, I think you all deserve a prize. That was a long one, 2 hours. So I hope you guys found it informative. We'll let you know about the upcoming event sometime in October about how to really optimize those conversions, the conversion rate of the landing pages. And if you have any other questions, just reach out to me, mike@myzone.com. And we're happy to answer questions. You know, EO community, it's all about giving back. I encourage you guys to do the same. If there's something that you've got a lot of experience, just share. Whenever I give shit away within EO, it comes back more than you could imagine. So I hope you guys found this valuable. You learned something from this. And yeah, if you saved some money, send me an email. I'd love to know how much money you saved. So thank you so much for attending. And when the rest of recordings come out, feel free to share them as well. The wider this goes, better for me. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day all around the world. And take care, guys.